I'm Mike,
And I'm Amber. Welcome to the Covenant Chronicles,
where we tell you the truth about relationships.
giving you the tools to build the foundation you always needed. Welcome back to the Covenant Chronicles.
Hi. Okay, well, I guess we're starting.
I asked you if you were ready, and you said waiting on you, and I said I'm literally waiting on you.
Here we are. That's crazy.
Mhm.
I was busy watching balls go in a straight line, but in a circle.
I don't even know what that means, but okay.
It was like an optical illusion thing, and the guy had like 3D printed this little cylindrical shaped deal, and in the center or on the top of it, it had these straight pathways, right? And they were angled down towards the center. And so what he was doing is he's dropping like a little BB in one, and it would roll down and roll back. And then he'd drop it in the next one, and it roll. And so they were all rolling down. So all they were doing is rolling back and forth.
Mhm.
But since he had one in each one of the pathways, as they roll back and forth, one would start here, one would start there, and they'd just go. And it looked like it was going in a circle, but it really wasn't. They were all just going straight back and forth.
That's crazy.
Anyways, not at all what this episode's about.
Alrighty then.
We're off to a fantastic start here.
Yeah.
All right, let's.
Super exciting.
So back on track. What are we talking about? Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me. No.
Uh-huh. Yeah, we're talking about that.
Apparently, I'm just vibing and you're not. I was vibing my little corner by myself, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess.
I mean, we promised everyone we would talk about sex, so here we are.
All right, well, let's do it. It's controversial. I'm sure we'll upset people, piss people off, have some people that agree. So it is what it is.
Maybe. I don't know what you think we're going to make people mad about, but yeah, I guess we'll see.
Well, it is the cornerstone of connection inside of a relationship. And I think that this is a hard one because a lot of people, everybody has a different, I guess, outlook, right? And depending on what stage of, we stop yawning, you're making me yawn now. Everybody has a different, depending on the stage of their relationship that they're in, has a different outlook on this, right? And I guess to start off, we can go down the rabbit hole of the biblical sense, right? Because there's not really an instruction manual of what it's supposed to look like. And I've heard all kinds of different theories. And my challenge is show me where it says that in scripture, right? Because that's always whenever somebody tries to tell me something religious based, I'm like, cool, show me where it is in scripture. And more than likely, in most cases, in pretty much all cases for the most part, it ends up being a situation where somebody sees one verse, they take it out of context, and they create a belief based on some out of context verse, right? So then we roll into okay, well, what should this look like inside of your relationship? And, I'd mentioned in the last podcast, but I had mentioned where I'd seen a lady talking about this, and she had basically talked about how every relationship is different, right? And what you partake in and what you do really is dependent upon, just like almost everything in your life, right? Your heart posture towards it. And what I mean by that is, everybody, you kind of have two sides of the fence, if you will, right? You have one side that lives in a very worldly sense and doesn't take any sort of faith or religion into their sex life. And then you have the other side that almost goes too far left field with like well, I can't do anything fun because that's not, acceptable in my faith. And I guess in certain faiths that's true, right? But when we're talking about modern Bible followers, that's not necessarily the case. And what what I would say is I agree with the way that it was put, in the sense of it depends on what that does inside of your relationship, right? If you are doing certain things that allow you and your partner to explore together, to have fun together, to connect together, so long as it doesn't create a rift between you two, then there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, right? But when you start leaning into the side of like, well, we're going to do crazy things, right? And
Mm-hmm.
explore, and you get so far one direction to where you're either worshiping something, you're creating a disconnection in your relationship, or you are creating a vice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you start leaning into the other side of things of, okay, it's probably not healthy for your relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how this shows up really is around this fun word called kinks, right? And you hear this all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And, depending on how exploratory you have been in your life, that can look very different. But you have things that you potentially enjoy with your partner, right? Let's say you and your partner like to, one of you likes to be tied up, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a thing where you are enjoying something with your partner, you're exploring, you're having fun? Or is this something where you have a vice and an addiction,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because those are two different places to go. And when you get down to it, all of these things inside of your relationship, right? This part of your relationship should be about building connection. It should be about building strength and intimacy and closeness and just fun, and really building up your relationship, right?
Yeah.
But when you start crossing the line of these things, right? And this is where some people will say, well, I don't partake in that. And there's certain things, right? Like we've talked about before. There's certain things that maybe are over that boundary, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's certain things that we've talked about that, well, there is no explicit, hey, you can't do this in the Bible, right? But based on even the examples in the Bible, it's probably not a good choice, right? Like we've talked about the whole, uh, you know, multiple partners thing, right?
Yeah.
And you'll get people that will, and this is when you talked about the pissing people off. This is where I'm going to go with that. You're going to get people that are saying, well, I can only have one partner because it says between one man or woman. You're taking that out of context, straight up. However, right, is it a good idea to have multiple partners? Absolutely not, right?
Yeah.
And in fact, I will argue this with anybody because there is nothing in the Bible that says specifically you can only have one wife. And when you look at examples of well-off men, or a lot of people that God called his specific people, they had multiple wives. However, there was always chaos associated with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you have to read between the lines and understand the context of like, this is probably not a good idea, right?
It's not a good idea.
And also the fact that, like we talk about with every other subject, when it comes, we start going into faith talks, right? Or biblical talks, you have to understand the context of the time and situations in societal norms, and also how the world operated, right? Now, that's not to say all societal norms are good, because they're not. And we know that if you exist in the world that we live in. There's a lot of things we can say are not great. But at the time, this whole, right, and we can go into this deep dive of like, okay, well, when we see the word wife in the Bible, you have to read the context because, by the way, the Hebrew word for wife is the same word for concubine. It's also the same word for the female housemaid. It's also the same word for a woman that you're close with. It's also the same word, right? Like there's all these descriptions around women that are that same word in Hebrew, right? So then you start going into that. Okay, well, what was the context? Was it that, you know, Joseph or Jacob or Abraham or Isaac had multiple wives, truly? Or was it, hey, he had a wife and he had other partners for reproductive purposes, right? Not to go down a total tangent here and start, because we can spend 2 hours talking about that whole situation, right? But at the end of the day, there are things that you have to understand, right? So then when you come back to, okay, well, what is and is not acceptable, it comes back to that, right? The basis is like when Jesus was challenged by the Pharisees in the temple, and they said, well, what is the greatest commandment, right? And his response was, well, first, love your God with all your heart. Second is love thy neighbor, right? So when you look at the consistency throughout the Bible, it is consistent about your heart posture, right? And the love and the person that you are, right? And when you take that same basis and you bring it into the intimate side of your life and with your partner, and you actually get back to the base level of this, right? Well, when you start asking these questions, okay, well, when me and my wife have sex, are there positions that are off limits? Well, I don't know. How do you feel about them? Can we use toys? Can we not? What about tying each other up? What about these other kinks that may arise, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it really comes back to the basis of what is your heart posture around that, right?
Yeah.
Are you doing it to explore, right? There are certain things that you and I do that are on the, well, not as vanilla side. However, I feel, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, there hasn't been anything that we have explored together that has created a rift between us or created a like any sort of weird addiction or vice or these extreme things where people are just really struggled functionality wise in their lives without these things, right?
Yeah.
Everything that you and I have done has all been something that we enjoyed mutually. We have fun with it. It brings us closer connection. And then there's other ways that it ties into even our playfulness outside of the bedroom.
Yeah.
There's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah. I'm trying to decide how open our podcast community is going to get right now.
Mm.
Guess I might as well go down that road, huh? Um, I can say with pretty good conviction that having multiple partners is not a good idea
Mm-hmm.
in a relationship. Uh, I think we've talked about the fact that like you and I have talked about it before, but the thing is like in my previous marriage, this was a thing. And it it becomes an issue. And I know that it's like a worldly thing right now, like swinging and having multiple partners is just like a thing that people do right now. Like it's cool to do, and you only live once, so you might as well live it up.
Mm.
And like
They're gonna be real surprised when Jesus comes back around, huh?
listen.
Little,
I'm just
little biblical
saying
humor there.
it's yeah. I I know plenty of people who would be like, "It's not an issue, like, it's what we both decided we were gonna do it together, and so it's fine, and we're both okay with it, and we talk about it," and but, uh, the more that I know and have learned, like, the more that I understand that it's impossible, more so for women than it is for men, but I think it is with men as well in some capacity, but, like, it's nearly impossible for a woman to have a relationship or a physical, just intimate relationship with someone and not feel feelings towards them in some capacity.
Hmm.
And uh, I just think that that creates a massive issue when you're trying to have a biblical covenant together. And I think that that's where a lot of times this is like causing issues inside of relationships because you think, oh, it'll be fun. Let's just add another partner. Let's just have a threesome. Let's just, what, it'll be fun.
Hmm.
It'll be so much fun. It'll spice things up. It'll whatever. But no one's like taking into account what that does within you. Um, and I can, with real certainty, say that it changed a lot of things inside me. And that's a hard one. Like, I, it probably will raise flags with people if they listen to this and are all about that. But I'm just saying, if you like want to live out a biblical covenant, that is not the way to go.
Well, and we can go deeper with that too, of like when you go into that, you're searching for something, right? You're
Oh,
searching to fill a hole that
100%.
can't be filled with worldly things, right?
100%. Uh,
But and
yeah,
that's exactly where it goes back to anything in the bedroom, right?
yeah.
Are like we talked about, are you okay, let's talk about the toys thing, right? Are toys acceptable? Well, are you trying to just fill a void? Do you have an addiction, right? Like, are you doing these things? Are you introducing things because there's a massive underlying issue inside of your relationship and there is no real intimacy and sex is an obligation and that's why?
I
Or
mean,
is there something else there that you're bringing in and you're saying, hey, let's explore, let's have fun?
I think a lot of times it is like an exploring and fun thing, but I'm going to be honest too. And like, the statistic is that like 80% of women can't get off without clitoral stimulation, right?
Hmm.
And that's typically where that like comes into play. I don't necessarily find an issue with toys in the bedroom if it's like, you're both okay with it. This is just something that you do to spice it up, to help, you know, all of those things. Like, I don't necessarily see a problem with toys in the bedroom. I also will challenge that for women, a lot of getting off is mental. And
You don't say.
I think that that is highly overlooked when we talk about like 80% of women can't get off without clit. I think that might actually be different if it was being looked at from the standpoint of the mental game, if you will.
I mean, I'd agree with that just from a like a guy's perspective, right? It is like guys tend to take pride in their ability to please women, right? Like it's the stupid thing that guys have stuck in their head of like, oh, I'm gonna puff my chest up because blah blah blah, right? And it's funny because every woman that's been in a relationship that gets in a new relationship always talks crap about that. part of their past relationship, right? And the new guy puffs his chest. But the truth is, right, is like we've probably all been in situations where we understood that. We've been in situations where we didn't understand that and we did the wrong things, right? Because let's
Mhm.
be honest, like the world doesn't do a great job of teaching us about these things,
Mhm.
right? Because your schools teach you how not to get pregnant and hopefully not catch an STD. And really, then we go into, well, where do you know, because parents don't talk about anything. And then you go right into, well, where do people learn? Well, usually young adults and you know the teenagers are learning from porn, which we know how massive of an issue that is. You know, whether we're talking about the dopamine addictions that it creates in men, I guess potentially women too, but I would say that men have more challenges with this, right? Like
Yeah.
eh, porn addiction for women is a thing. I would venture to bet it's more of an issue for men, right?
Yeah, I
And this is
don't think
super
it's nearly as much of an issue
right,
for women,
and
but
it's super common, right? Then there again, we can go back to one of our other podcasts about mindset, and I truly believe that a lot of men that claim they have a porn addiction, it's because they have a dopamine addiction. They heard somewhere that they had a porn addiction, and now they created a problem in their head and started circling their identity around I'm a porn addict instead of hey I did this but it's not who I am, right? And we
yeah.
can go into that. We'll talk about identity and mindset in another one, but regardless, you know, you talk about these things and then that's where we learn.
Yeah.
And then the other way we learn is when we do it, right?
Yeah.
But then we go into the okay, well, people don't communicate in relationships.
Mhm.
You don't communicate what you want in the bedroom. Heck, you don't communicate how you want to be loved, let alone what you want in the bedroom, right?
You know, the one thing I will say about like the swinging and poly community and all that nonsense is that typically because those relationships are sexual in nature, like they it is talked about.
Mm.
And you get to a point where like you're doing the things that you like and that get you there because it's something that's being talked about, which is interesting because you don't really talk about it in your own relationship. But
Mm-hmm.
because these are just sexual relationships, you know, it's something that ends up getting talked about. But you know, in saying that, I think that when we talk about like the mental thing for women, the biggest problem is like I brought up the other day about that, you know, clip that I saw on Instagram or whatever that was talking about how like men can have a bad day and want to just come home and have sex and then they're magically better, right?
For
And
sure.
then
Women, you want to make his day better? He's having a bad day. He walks through the door, just get on your knees. Promise you his evening will be fantastic.
but that's not at all how women work, right?
Yeah.
Like we are emotional and like, you know, if we've had a bad day, like we need to talk about it and process it and all of these things before we can possibly get into the mindset of like, hey, let me do that, you know? And so,
Are you sure? I feel like I'll be fixing your bad days with the magic wand.
okay, but this is,
I'm just kidding.
let me finish my point here.
Oh, we're not talking about you. We're talking about general. Okay.
My point is that most women or most relationships in general, that's how they operate is like the guy just comes home, wants sex to fix his day, expects it, and the woman's like, "Hey, but I need to talk and whatever," and that never happens, and then they're like, "Oh, fine, you know, we can have sex," and she's not in the mood. So, like, getting there is an issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you're in a relationship where there's like emotional safety and all of those things and you can communicate, you know what's going on 98% of the time, like the way that your brain is able to shift into that is much easier. Like you already feel that safety, which is part of the mental game. Like if you feel emotionally safe and emotionally secure in your relationship, you feel more open to doing things, which then leads to it being easier for you to get into that mindset and then to just be open when you're having sex, right? Which makes it easier for you to get there. It
Hmm.
makes it easier for, you know, your husband to get you to that point.
Hmm. I mean, and that's the thing. It is mental, right? Is like you said, with the guys are very physical, right? We're very visual and physical. So for us, like, we can come home and have a crap day and you flash us, and usually we're like, oh, okay, I can do this, right? We're kind of cavemen in that sense. But like women, it's not that way. And the challenge becomes is that we tend to, fall into this, especially when there's other disconnection, there's other just closeness, intimacy issues in general. Guys tend to fall into a frustrated state, and then they come home, okay, I want to fix my day this way. And she's, more than likely too, this is the other part of it, right? More than likely, if we've had a jacked up day, we've ignored her all day, or maybe we were, you know, kind of off with her, or even snarky or whatever have you, right? And then that created a situation where it put her in a bad mood. And now we come home and everything's supposed to be magically better. And we've already, we let go of it when we stepped out of the car and walked into the front door, right? But then you haven't let go of it, right? Because
Mhm.
the women process things differently. And so then we come home with this expectation and this and that, right? But like you said, it's a mental game, right? And it expands bigger into, and like I had mentioned, right? Like you and I do explore a lot of things. Those things kind of trail outside of the bedroom, right? And we have jokes and we have things we say and we have, even sometimes physical things we do that create that headspace and that mental game throughout the day, right? And like
Yeah.
that's one thing we've talked about is like, we have this joke and you give me crap all the time about like, I'll make a joke about something, and you always go, well, it's not that. You're just really good at head games. And I'm like, but it works, right? Like that, it works, right? And that's what it comes back to is it's a mental thing, and being able to put you in that space throughout the day and lead up to that. And then it does allow these things, right? Eh,
No,
eh,
that was the conversation we had yesterday where you were like, stop being sassy. And I was like, you make me sassy on purpose to get fired up because you like it. And then it creates this dynamic between the two of us where I'm being sassy and you have to put me in my place because I'm being sassy. It's a whole thing.
Uh-huh. For sure.
Like
For
you
sure.
do it on purpose. Don't tell me not to be sassy because you're trying to make me sassy on purpose.
Okay, well, to be fair, sometimes you also will just be sassy out of nowhere to uh, get me to have said reaction because
I
you
don't know
want.
what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
that's what I thought. Anyways, but I mean, that's what it comes down to, though, right? It's like you look at this dynamic and it's fun. It's something we do together. We use it for the purpose of creating connection. And in all honesty, when I would say you're really good at like when you are feeling disconnected and you do need connection, that's part of the way that you actually will help reconnect us, right? Like talking about the sassy thing and the dynamic of like you like being put in your place and this and that, right? And like you'll start that crap to have this fun, playful back and forth between us when you need connection sometimes, right? Because it leads to other things. It leads to us being close. It leads to intimacy and connection. And then, later, hopefully, other things. But
Yeah.
that's, really going back to the beginning of this is when people question, right? Well, what is the boundary? What's acceptable? What's okay? What's not okay? Well, you have to figure that out for yourself, right? And have an honest conversation, because also you run into this situation where maybe there's massive issues inside of the relationship that aren't being addressed. So you get this typical, like, because back to the mental thing, right? She's not in that space and hasn't been for a long time. So this whole, oh, I'm not into that.
Yeah.
Well, like I've said on other podcasts, she's not doing that thing you want her to do. You're probably screwing up, and that's why. Right?
I wasn't into a lot of things for a lot of years.
Can't relate, bro.
Oh, Marlanta, we're opening up too much tonight.
But that's the thing, though, is being honest about it, right? Because I would rather there's a understanding when we talk about this stuff of, like, when we're being real, and it's like, hey, no, we talk about this stuff because we've been there, we've done it, we've done the bad things or the things that don't work, and we've also done the good things and the things that do work, and we've figured it out. So, hey, here's the instruction manual because we've done this stuff, so you don't have to.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what it comes down to. And at the end of the day, when you look at this stuff, creating a roadmap of, like, or roadmap's probably the wrong term, but a set of guidelines within your relationship on what you are willing to do. Like I said, it really, the limit becomes, one, if it's unhealthy, and two, is it creating connection or disconnection?
Yeah.
Right? And like we talked about, like, multiple partners, probably unhealthy, right? It's also going to create disconnection, right?
It's going to create a lot of disconnection.
Well, and that's the thing is, like, coming from a different, even like you said, the beginning of our relationship, we had those talks about, like, is this something we do? Is it something we'd explore? Is it? But the reality of the situation is that we're, despite men and women being on different places, and they handle these situations differently, when you are building a covenant with God at the center, there is, even if you tried to go back to the Bible and be like, well, so and so had multiple wives, they did for reproductive purposes. And also, there was a lot of chaos that came along with that, right? And when you read through the stories, there was all kinds of conniving and pulling stuff and this and that and, like, whatever, because
women get very jealous. It's just
right,
the nature of women.
right. And so that's probably unhealthy, right? Exploring things to see if you enjoy them with your partner, probably not unhealthy, so long as it's not creating disconnection between you two, right? In the sense of, if you want to try tying up your partner, if you want to try toys in the bedroom, if you want to try this or try that, right? If you want to try the little Bluetooth activated stuff, and, maybe you travel for work and you want to have fun with your partner on long distance, maybe you want to introduce toys because you want to send your husband cool videos while he's at work. Whatever the case may be, are you doing it because it builds connection, builds intimacy, it brings you guys closer together? Or are you doing things because you have an addiction, and is it creating a rift between you two, right? And those are the questions you have to ask on, is this acceptable or is it not acceptable?
I think just having discussions in general about your sex life, What do you enjoy doing? Do you feel like you can be open? Are you enjoying it?
Mhm.
Are you having fun with it? Like, if you're not, maybe you can talk about things you think would be fun or things that you think you might enjoy that would help. Or, like there's just so many things to get into when it comes to sex. Are you having foreplay together? Do you feel like that would help if you did? Um, do you know what aftercare is? Have you ever discussed that?
Mm.
Do you know what you might enjoy after sex? And not just like, oh, we had sex, we cleaned up, okay, we're done. Like there's just what?
I'm just laughing because I'm thinking about how many men don't know what aftercare is. And most women probably too have never experienced it. I was just thinking, like, man, you wanna change the game? That's the ticket right there.
For sure. I didn't know what it was until
You're
a
welcome.
couple years ago. I knew about it before you. But
I'm just saying, I'm spectacular at that.
Uh, you- you're mid.
Oh,
But
okay. Oh, okay. Okay. That's fine. I don't got to do it. It's fine.
I'm just kidding, babe. You're okay at it.
Okay. I got you.
Maybe we need to talk about that and step up your game.
Oh, we did. Okay. Okay.
Oh gosh.
To be fair, it does depend on the night too.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm like, I'm just trying to go to sleep. Can we get this done with?
Yeah. Anyways, so, there's a lot of discussions that can be had around your sex life and really exploring things together. Like we've had we've had a lot of conversations, and more so recently than we had in the beginning of our relationship. Um but we've had discussions about like what do we think that like it looks like for us inside of our covenant. You know, certain things that we're like, I don't know if that, is that something that's okay? Is that a like how do we feel about it? Everything from toys to doing fun things in the bedroom to, you know, um videos and pictures and you know masturbation. Like we've had discussions about like everything you can think of, I feel like. um but I feel like it's made more open between us in a good way. And like we're still in the beginning stage, like we still haven't honestly explored that much together. Like we have explored things, but not to the extent that we want to, I think.
Mm.
um
Don't be calling me out now.
I'm not gonna call you out, but you could be very called out this week.
It's only been a week since we got new stuff to play with. I will use it on you soon.
I'm not going to
Too bad.
reference back to the
Too-
Friday episode that we had where you said it's definitely going to be 2 times today. And let me just tell everyone, it was not 2 times that day.
I didn't. We're going to have to go listen to that.
You definitely
Because
did.
I said it could be. And you said, don't promise nothing. That can't happen.
You said it was going
and
to
I
be.
said,
And I
there's
said,
a good.
make a promise that you can't keep.
Damn, we're gonna go listen to this podcast.
And here we are.
We're gonna find this podcast.
Calling you out in front of everyone. It's okay. But still haven't played with the new stuff, and here we are.
Here we are.
Only super mildly frustrated.
I'm busy.
Yeah. So anyways, getting super distracted and off here. But I would say that while there's probably a million more rabbit holes that we can go down with this conversation, we'll have more conversations about sex and relationships and like how they all work together. But I think a good, ending place here and a starting point for you listening would be to just think about where your relationship is currently at with sex. Like, have you had a discussion about your sex life recently? Are there things that you feel like you would like to explore that you've never talked about with your partner? Like, are there things that you think you would really like? Maybe start there, write some things down, and take it to your partner and just bring it up and start having a discussion about it. Like, talking about it can often lead to things happening anyways, and it'd be fun because you're talking about sex and it's a fun thing. So, oh, did you figure out that you said that?
Okay, hold on. Technically, I said in a joking manner, well, it's going to be like twice today, so that makes up for one of the days. And you said, don't set expectations you can't keep. And we both laughed, and I even made a joke about not making promises. And then the conversation went on. So technically...
No, technically you said.
Oh, my Lanta.
Oh, goodness.
Context is important, lady. Read the context.
No. You said it. And then you didn't. Keep your expectations.
To be fair, I never confirmed. You said don't set expectations, and I never confirmed it was going to be twice that day. Just saying.
That's not at all how that works. Anyways, take my advice. Go do this with your partners. Don't set expectations you can't keep.
Yeah, don't do that.
And
you're so needy.
Have fun talking about sex with your partner.
Are we going to go talk about that now?
We'll see.
All right, y'all. If you haven't done the relationship audit yet, talk about this on every episode now. It is free. It doesn't track your info. You don't have to put any info. Covenantchronicles.com. It's at the top on the right-hand side. If you're on a computer, if you're on a phone, tablet, something of that nature, the little 2 lines, bars on the left-hand side. Click that. It opens up at the bottom. It says relationship audit. Go do it. You need it. Your relationship needs it. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. Well, I guess printer paper and some ink, because you do got to print it out. We did that intentionally. Something magical about writing. So...
And I've linked our website at the bottom of every podcast lately. So just click the link and go to it.
There you go. It's free.
All right, you guys. That's all for today.
We're apparently going to go talk about sex or something. I have a feeling we're going to have a conversation now. All right, y'all.
Okay. Bye.